All right. So now we are officially recording. Again, if you guys are tuning in live, welcome. Appreciate you guys for always making time on your Sunday evening or maybe early Monday if you're on the other side of the world to be with us here to prepare for a new week of trading. I got my co-host, Mr. Brent Badal, in the building, of course, here. If you guys are watching the recording of this, also welcome to this call. As we are going to pretty much cover what is in store for the week of basically August 11th through, I don't know, 17, something like that. So, yeah, man, let's get straight into it. I know, Brent, you're going to kick us off with some news.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before that, obviously, shout out to you, bro. Thank you as well. I know you said that I held it down with the 10 and 0, bro, last week because you were out, but bro, you still ran your sessions while you were out. You were literally on vacation, celebrating life, celebrating Marianne's birthday. Shout out to Marianne, of course. But hey, dude, like, for real, thank you for what you do too. That shows obviously quality leadership. That shows you guys that you are in the right place at the right time. So thank
Appreciate
you
you,
too,
bro.
bro. Appreciate it. I know if I was in Cancun, I'd be like, see you guys next week. So thank you, bro. I appreciate it for sure, for sure. But if not, I would have been live like, yo, all right, just bye guys. I'll see you later. But here we are now. We're at a new week, so let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. So first things first, obviously news. We're gonna go through the news of what we have for the week. We're gonna go through the forecast. As always, love news. Well, as always, if you're new or you're back here again watching these calls every single Sunday, as you know, when we talk about news, it's not that we're really diving into any specific politics siding or anything like that. We're not going into creating any pandemonium or anything in that situation. And then we don't always fall into the smoke of the news. It's more of just knowing what type of news it is to make sure that we could trade accordingly and be ready for it. I love trading news. So we're going to go ahead and go through this. So tomorrow, Monday, we have the Cleveland Fed inflation expectation. So this one doesn't happen much. Maybe it happens once a year. And it's one of those that kind of sucks because it's tentative. So we don't really know what time it's going to happen. But something you could learn when you see tentative, if it's in between 7:30 and 1 o'clock, like as you can see, it's in the middle. That means if it happens, it'll happen anywhere in that time frame. I would expect it to happen more towards 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, anywhere around that time frame for the bell to kind of lean on that. So that's when we're going to be ready for. It's yellow, but all the times you don't want to fall into the color either. For example, the one that I'm excited for tomorrow is the federal budget balance, and that's really going to set us off for the week. And as you can see, that forecast is not good. Previously, we were down 66 billion, and they're expecting to say that now we're down 243 billion dollars. So federal budget balance is super important. Not always are you going to see that big crazy movement of 300 pips on NAS or more, or 30, 60, 90 pips on gold, but it's something that you will see a movement and it kind of sets up the week of what's going to happen. And again, this is good. It's not that you're going to fall with the data, but it's good data for us to know for everything else that's going on. Right now, we're going into a very interesting time, which I know I touched on that on the last Monday mindset call, as far as fear, emotions, all that good stuff. So yes, this week you're going to continue seeing a lot on your phones. If you have any app for news or anything like that pop up, most likely this week you're going to see a lot of that news. Last week I mentioned that there's a very high possibility that this Monday, so tomorrow, we might see a lot of big corporations do big layoffs. We've seen that before in the past last year to when there's a dive in the stock market and that actual company is involved in that stock market. People go to, and it sucks, right? People go to work on Mondays and you can't clock in and what's going on. You check your email and you've been let go and it's by the hundreds. We might see something like that tomorrow because of the movement that we had last week. And then the week before that, and then last week didn't really kind of correct 100%. It's still kind of down. But this is something that we need to get excited for. And I say we because everybody that's here and watching this recording, because you're actually in here for knowledge, you're preparing yourself, you're trying to learn more. So these are the moments when we see that big R word, when we see the recession happen, all that good stuff. When we saw it back in 2018, if you saw that, that was when the most like young millionaires popped up with crypto and Forex and all that type of stuff and real estate. Like a lot of people in real estate during that time made amazing moves. They were had that education, they were in that right place, they had the proximity with the right people to where now they are millionaires, billionaires. So this is a great opportunity that can happen for us that have a little bit of knowledge. So let's make sure that that fear and everything that we see in the news this week, especially starting off tomorrow with the federal budget balance, because that's the one that I feel we're going to get the most. Like social media is everything, the whole nine. Like federal budget balance announced that we're this much down, because it hasn't really ever been more than a two-digit. It's always been like it's breaking even, it's down 20, 30, 50 billion, whatever. But right now they're expecting, like I said, for it to be 250, $300 billion expected to be down in the federal budget balance. So just so you guys don't freak out and you see that, we're going to be ready for it. So that's happening tomorrow, Monday. Tuesday, we run into the PPI. Love it. So those that are in Tradex, because I know a lot of people have your Tradex accounts. A lot of you guys received your free Tradex accounts, so you do not have the news add-on. Always remember to go to Tradex, scroll all the way down, terms and conditions. You see that chart, so you know what news you could trade, what you can trade. PPI is one that you cannot trade. If you have the news add-on, if you have your own account with Trident, or if you purchased one with the news add-on, PPI is great. I love it, but it is one that moves fast. This is the one that moves fast. And as I mentioned, I don't care what they say. I don't care if they say, oh, it's good news, we should buy, or it's bad news, we should sell. It doesn't matter. We're going to go off the charts. We're going to go off what the charts are telling us to do. But PPI is one that at 7:30 on the dot, you will see a big candle. Up, down, whatever it is, ones that I love. And the cool thing is that it's happening at a great time being 7:30. As you know, the majority of us trade gold and NAS. Gold NAS typically like to move around that 7:30 mark and then 8:30 central mark for the opening bell. So perfect timing for it to happen of the day. And it sets us up really. I like when we have news a little bit earlier like this because we have that big candle up and then we play in that high and low and we can take advantage of that too. So that's happening Tuesday. Core PPI and the PPI both are happening then. Wednesday, we go into the CPI. This is normal. When you have the PPI, the following day you have the CPI. Again, same situation on Tradix. You cannot trade this one. The same deal. Cool thing, it's at the same time. For Wednesday, it's definitely going to be a little bit heavier on the news cycle because we have a lot of stuff happening, as you can see, around the world. And gold, it could affect it, even NAS sometimes. Even though NAS, it's 100 stocks that predominantly are US stocks, but it could still affect the world at that point. So Wednesdays should be a really good day. There should be a lot of volume. We can see a big stretch in the market if it wants to correct down or if it wants to keep on going up. We should see a nice big rally movement in a sense on Wednesday based on the news that's happening. So that's going to be an exciting one. Again, 7:30. One more time we get that. Thursday, core retail sales, unemployment claims. That's the one which is it's basically the new FOMC for the year. That's this year how it's been. Unemployment claims now moves fast. One more time. When? 7:30. So again, great. We have that consistent week. I love when that week is consistent with those high impact news at the same time. It kind of gets us in a really good flow to be ready for things. But we have more news on Thursday, so it should be another type of day where we could see a nice little rally movement at that point, or a very large consolidation day of up and down. Because we have the Empire State, Philly manufacturing, importing, a couple of FOMC speakers, capacity, industrial. So there's a lot of news that we're still going through all the entire day. But the important one, of course, is this one here. Is going to be the important one. And as I've been saying pretty much this entire year, keep an eye on housing. It's a long-term situation. So we do have housing. I think it was, yeah, mortgage delinquencies tentative. Nothing to really worry about as far as at the moment of that trade, but this is something we need to start seeing. Like, are we going to start seeing now people not paying their mortgage? Are we going to start seeing those delinquencies to get ready to kind of see where we are in that movement? If we're starting to see that repetition of 2008, of the 2019 side of things to get ready for a market shift. Housing is super important when it comes to that. That's one of the main things that people look at is housing as far as the health of the economy. And then weird, funny stuff like we spoke last time when the market kind of crashed, right? Like McDonald's. Like McDonald's is, yeah, I don't trade stocks, guys, but McDonald's is one that I always look at. And it's crazy because it's true. Like it's that thing like you have 9 to 5, you have your commute, you're going to rush out of the house to get to work. And where you're going to stop for breakfast, you're going to stop at McDonald's. And if civilization of society is saying, hey, I can't afford to stop to McDonald's right now. I need to just figure something out and go to work, then that is something bad. And obviously we saw how it dropped 22%. And once McDonald's dropped, we kind of had that tumbling effect with a bunch of other ones. So you start getting those little kind of like notifications from the market, like, hey, like listen, like trying to tell you something, get ready. And that's one that we always see with how with the housing situation. It's not that we trade it, but it's something good to look at what that data is to get ready for what can come at that point. And that's all speculations. We're not financial advisor or anything like that. Just what I've learned throughout the years. Friday, we close out with consumer sentiment, prelim inflations, again, big ones here at 9. 7:30, we have news again, which is building permit, housing starts. See, same situation. Like I don't expect really 7:30 on a Friday for a big move. It could happen. I'm not expecting it, but it's more of Thursday. We saw delinquencies. Friday, we're gonna see building permits. Like how many are actually like what's expectation from builders? How many permits are putting out for new builds? And then housing starts, how many are actually starting for new communities, things of that nature, to see where things are going. And then of course prelim. These are just prelims, so it's not solid numbers, but still this will move. And Friday's like to correct, so we have a nice little correction Friday move of where the market needs to go out for to close out the week when it comes to that. But yeah, guys, I'm excited for this week. We have CPI, we have PPI, we have a lot of good news data to utilize for just again speculations of what can happen with everything in the market right now. Steadily, always most of the news 7:30. So I'm happy. I'm happy to for this week. What we have, nothing crazy with weird times, things like that, kind of like to mess us up. But yeah, that's it for me for the news. I'll pass it over to you, Rich, for the charts.
Yeah, nah, I've been away from the charts for too long, bro. I don't even know if I know what to do anymore, to be honest, bro.
It's like riding a bike, bro. You do not forget.
All right. Well, appreciate you, man, for covering the news. For sure. Definitely. I think that something I didn't really get to talk about. I feel like I just didn't like my mind wasn't fully there. Obviously, not being on the charts like hands on, even doing my live sessions to just have that conversation about what the hell happened last week. Right. And to be honest, like mainly obviously I trade just purely NASDAQ and that 19,500 whole level, which I'm going to show here in a minute, was an area that I was looking at for like what was basically going to decide whether we were going to make new all-time highs or like really head into some dangerous territory as far as like bearish price action long term. And we did see that rejection. For those that tap into my live sessions, like go back 2 weeks and you'll see that 19,500 level, how important it was. With gold, we're going to cover that first. So I'm going to share the screen on here. But I mean, NASDAQ, again, my main thing. And then also what's headlining really everything, guys, is the stock market. At the end of the day, I know a lot of us are international based, not just US based. But being that, we do have a huge, a Koshex base that is US based. Our stock market is a big indicator of, our economy, right? What's going on. And being that we are obviously a global superpower, what happens in America kind of trickles around the world in a way, right? Obviously we saw like Asian markets, Japan, like suffering crazy drops as well. So not just US. But yeah, I think just stock markets in general around the world are really what has like the headlines and like kind of what the main attention is on right now. As far as gold, which I'm sharing with you guys first and foremost though, there's really two things that grab my attention from like a macro perspective here, which is number one, this key level here at around 2390, roughly 2388, whatever you want to call it, right? I especially on gold, obviously I have like my more detailed strategy for specifically for NAS trading around different session timings, but for gold, and even if I trade forex pairs, I think that key levels are something that helps me find the biggest trades, right? I mean, obviously, we're going to be scalping gold if you're trading live with Brent. Shout out to Joel as well. I got to give Joel his flowers, obviously, crushing it with gold as well. But guys, I mean, like, for example, some of the trades that Brent and Joel sent, we're in alignment with this key level that I was looking at, where if we are pushing above key levels, guys, some of you guys may call it support and resistance. I'm not going to argue terms, right? At the end of the day, if you understand that price is going to gravitate towards and push away from certain price points, that's really like the easiest visual thing that you guys can do in general. And, obviously I would love Brent to kind of touch on that afterwards, his thoughts on that. But, sometimes I feel like we get lost in the charts and we don't really know where to begin. And I think that starting with just looking at things on a higher time frame, right? Not a monthly or anything like that, but a 4-hour time frame, even a 1-hour time frame daily, it kind of just zooms us out and we get to see the bigger picture, right? Because when we're in alignment with the bigger picture, our scalps and our intraday setups are going to take off and we're going to get those big risk to reward type of days, versus when we're fighting a choppy kind of like consolidating market, or we're actually counter trend and we're not realizing it because we're just so hyper focused on the small time frames, right? So always, guys, look at the key levels. On gold, we clearly see that this is not an accidental coincidence, right? There's clearly evidence starting with this day back in like June, right, where we had a massive drop from that level, right? We saw again, we came up there. This is probably like, sorry, I have this like blocking me here. Okay, this is July 5th. So this is literally like a month later, same level. And from there, like we've seen, whenever we push above this level, we've gotten potentials all the way to here. We broke above the level, we got to here. Broke above the level, got to here. Broke above the level, and so far we are here, right? So anything basically above 2388, right? That rough number right there. Like let's say we start getting some bearish price action. This is really where I ideally would love to place my strongest trades at with gold for right now, because I already see historically, if we are touching that price point, we have the ability to get all the way down here and at least to here. So once price gravitates to here, we can expect it to see this level, right? And if not, we're going to get to this level. So I think that's the most easy visual thing, right? Without getting too technical and using other layers of confluence based on your strategy to kind of get an idea for where gold can go. Right now, in a way, for me personally, not that we're in the middle, but like this supply zone is going to be very important, because we saw that we did have that initial rally off that point and we failed to make a new high, right? So that was pretty significant, as a telltale sign for like what gold is trying to do. When we had this initial push, we did get a clear break of structure above here, like well above that. So that was good news, right? Like when we broke above that, even when we were down here, right, we kind of expected price to come back up, because this break of structure, it's not a coincidence, and we saw that. However, we did not continue breaking new highs. We kind of halted here, came back down a little bit below the key level. So again, the last real good trade, and I think that if I remember correctly, it was, I'm sure multiple educators called the buys here, but I know for sure, like Joel had called a buy here, and it was one of those that like just took off, right? And guess what? It's that key level, man. That key level is very powerful. So I think from a weekly time frame that we see, we actually closed bearish for the week. Obviously that wick to the downside is kind of some indicator that we are rejecting the downside from a higher time frame. But I mean, just from looking at candles for a long time, usually whenever we close a higher time frame, like a weekly, we could probably maybe get an initial push and then another correction down. Overall, though, I think we still should be going up. But right now we're in like one of those places, and I know this is where Brent would probably elaborate and kind of, give you guys his insight on gold. I think that this is gonna be kind of a level to maybe expect some sells, but it's not like something I'm super confident in to be placing trades around here unless you're scalping or something. Once we get back down to here, that's where I would be looking to place a strong position in for me personally. So, Brad, I don't know if you want to cover gold real quick before we move on to NAS. I think you're muted, bro.
Now we're good. So yeah, it's funny that you said that as far as like zooming out, because as you guys know, I trade in the 1 minute chart. Like I scalp in the 1 minute chart. That's the most thing that I do. And both type of trades that I sent this week that we closed in profits, which I closed early. I should have left them longer because it didn't go all the way. But they were all in the 1 hour chart. A lot of what I did this week in gold, I typically when in doubt, I zoom out. I zoom out to the 30 minute. But most of this week, I zoomed out to the 1 hour, just because how the market was, and I actually leaned very heavily this week on the on Elliott waves, and I don't do that much. It's a little bit more advanced. I have a scanner that does them for me too. I just need to make sure they confirm because a lot of times it tricks you because it's a scanner, like it'll show you after the fact. But I've been using it for a while, and that's what I leaned on a lot, like that type of movement for how the week was, right? But what you're saying is definitely super important. I'm gonna go ahead and go down to the 1 hour too, which, like I said, I don't do much. But here's what you were talking about, right? That important kind of secondary. We sold right here after this drop. We sold, these are live trades that I took. Sold right here, dropped. Sold right here, dropped. Because we were waiting for that. Here's where it made that movement, came back, tested it, saw that it already had broken out, left it, let it do its thing. We had news to slice it right back down and come back into that zone. Again, we sold one more time. This was a tap trade, sold again. And then obviously we're playing in that. What I didn't like at this point is that it should have continued down here. So we're kind of stuck now in this position where we are now. Like what Rich is saying, it's all of this is kind of weird because it didn't go all the way up to respect one more time and go down, but it didn't break all the way down here out of it. So we're kind of in the middle at that point, but in the middle of what? Like it's weird. It hasn't really
Yeah.
made like an actual up or a low, but we're consolidated in a very weird area. And hopefully I could let me see if this actually let me see that. I don't know. Can you see my MetaTrader?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is one of the scanners that I have that prints out the Elliott waves, and this kind of shows you, right, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're in that fifth wave, and the area where Rich is saying he would want it to come down to is actually where the EMA. There's a big zone here to buy, so there's a big buy zone right here, and then the EMAs are actually there too. The 225. There's multiple levels. There's 4 hour supports. So there's a lot of stuff down here for it to come down and buy off, just like Rich was saying, right? But it's crazy because if it were to come down and break, we are down. Like there is so much room for this to come. All of this needs to, as usually we do those 50% retracements, right? Since February. We haven't really retraced since February.
Mhm.
So it's like there is so much room for this to come down, at least back into the kind of like this zone, maybe, which is crazy, right? Just to say, hey guys, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna drop 3,000 pips on gold in a week, right? There's enough news for it, don't get me wrong, but that would be crazy, right? If that happened. And I just, unfortunately, for those that live in the States and use dollars, I don't see the dollar coming in strong like that to where it's gonna just randomly recover that much and just become suddenly so strong to where it's going to drop that much. So most likely we should drop, take a little bit, maybe continue up, or where it's at now, it just goes ahead and oh, what did I do? That's why. If this candle right now breaks above the top of this wick of the fifth wave, so if it comes above like 37 and actually supports on it, then it's going to keep up from here. It'll keep on going up. And then at that point, now we have to go back to the same situation where we were last week of, okay, so once this goes up to this level, this blue line that I have here, which was the same line that Rich put on there, are we gonna sell again? Right. So it's definitely a spot where we wanna chill, see what happens, and then just use those levels at that point.
Yep. I hear you, bro. Yeah, so if you guys notice, like, I want you guys to pay attention to, like, when we speak, right? And not just us, but any educator that talks about an analysis, right? Sometimes we have like a very clear perspective on what we're looking at, and sometimes we're like figuring it out, and you can just hear it in our voice and confidence levels, right? And you have to realize that you yourself are gonna have those internal discussions with yourself. We're just voicing it out because we're, teaching or showing you guys, right? But all of us have that internal dialogue whenever we're analyzing a chart, right? If I'm talking to those that are like, taking your own trades, maybe trying to apply some of the stuff that we're doing. Obviously, if you guys are taking tap to trades, trade alerts and whatnot, I mean, you just follow instructions, right? But I know a lot of us on here, we're looking to develop our skill sets. We're trying to understand how to take trades for ourselves, right? And pay attention to that internal dialogue, guys, because if you don't have a clear reason to get into a trade, you probably should not get into a trade. And the only reason why you wouldn't have a clear, and here's the thing, you can have a clear perception and still be wrong. And that's gonna happen, right? But you can't just be like in the middle, a little bit undecisive, like how we are right now. Just wait a little bit more, right? Because there's gonna be news. Like there's gonna be something that reveals what the market is trying to do. I think a word that gets tossed around a lot in the trading industry, and again, I want Brent to always rebuttal, say his part to, counter me if I'm ever saying something that maybe he doesn't agree with, right? But I think the word prediction gets thrown around a lot in trading. And man, predictions are get you in trouble. I think predictions, I mean, if you don't control price action, which we don't, you can't predict nothing, right? All you can do is create scenarios based off of your strategy, right? So if you're ever confused with what trade to get into, it's because your strategy is not revealing itself with the current price that's revealed right now, or you just don't have a strategy really. Like you just kind of know a couple basic terms and you're trying to wing it. In either case, would you ask yourself, like, would I put $1 million on the line on this trade if I had it? The answer is no, you don't have a clear trade, right? Again, even if you're wrong, but it's about being confident. So right now with the gold, we need to wait. So tomorrow morning, New York session typically, and I mean, sometimes we really see London, especially in these times right now. The after New York session, like we always teach, like, oh, New York session is prime time. Man, listen, when there's like a global, at least global, I wouldn't say panic yet, but there's global unease right now. And that creates price action like 24/7 right now. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we're going to see now on NAS as well. Is that, typically you'll see a lot of price action for New York session and then everything dies down pretty much after that. Right now, it's like obviously heavy New York price action, but there's also like a decent amount of London and even Asian ranges having like, I was looking at it on NAS like this whole week. Cause again, I'm not even really sending out alerts or anything last week, but I was just looking at the market every day to see, like, especially with all the news, like what's going on. And man, like you'll see on the charts, the ranges are just triple what they usually are outside of typical market session timing. And that is something that does change the way we trade, right? So I'm going to share my screen here real quick and kind of show you guys what I mean with NAS, right? So, like what I do with NAS specifically that I don't really do with like other assets, this is something that you can probably play around with other indices, but I've just gone all in on it with NAS. Typically, like again, Asian range, it's going to be very tight. Like all last week, all these ranges right here, I remember off the top of my head because I already did this in my head, and I think I talked about it on Thursday session, is that these are ranging from like 1,000 to 2,000 pips, if I remember correctly. And this last week, that jumped massively. Like this right here is like a 3,000 something pip range. This is like 2,000 plus. This is like pushing 3. This is almost pushing 3. Like these out of New York session ranges are massive. Again, because there's so many people antsy to just be getting into trades. There's a lot of other news that's going on outside of that 9 to 5 window from when the markets are operating in the stock market, that information is really moving price a lot more. And honestly, that's not really good for the way that I trade on NASDAQ. That's something that we have to be a little bit more aware of, right? The one day that NASDAQ really created the nastiest, like in a good way, move was on Thursday, which I believe was unemployment claims, I believe. Where we started, again, kind of shifting from that bearish drop right here, which really just kind of took out all the buyers, right? All these stop losses were collected from this initial push up. We started filling some of the imbalance from this like first big rally down here. And once that was filled, we started seeing how price shifted. I think at around literally that news event on Thursday, we saw an initial like really strong bullish candle. It gave us a nice retracement and then popped right back up. This was that one day where breaking out of like the Asian ranges and this area of like key level / support, whatever you want to call it, this was like the superstar trade of the week that ran for like thousands and thousands of pips. Every other day though, for the most part, Again, if you're scalping, different story, but for the most part that I'm intraday, it just like chop the highs, chop the lows, chop the high, chop the low. Like it was just a lot of sideways stuff. For Brent, this is probably paradise for you, bro. This is probably like that ping pong paradise on the 1 minute for sure. But again, like I try to really look for these intraday trades that turn into swings, right? And this was not the ideal conditions. Now, all that is to say though, I really think that we are going to revisit the prices that we saw during news on Thursday, because one thing I really look for outside of just timing the range breakouts and all that is areas of supply and demand. There's a really nice zone here from like 18,140 to about like 17,980. Basically, this whole wick right here on the 45 minute, at least on this specific broker. And it's not just picking this random wick that interests me. It's the fact that this came out during like the most important news release of the week that was supported by how much price really moved from that zone. Like this whole push from here to here was the news movement, right? And being that it forms a really nice demand wick that I usually look for, um, with the fact that, again, that was during a news release at that time, I think that if we can revisit this area and get some signs of like market reversal structure on the smaller time frames, this will be like a really nice place to buy again. And I really think that we are going to be returning to these higher price points, like of 19K plus. Reason being is because obviously at this point you're like a little bit behind if you think the market is crashing. Like people already know the market's quote unquote crashing, right? And once the news spreads that heavy, usually the market does the opposite for whatever reason, right? Like I don't trust whatever the overall sentiment is for intraday price action. If we're talking long term, all right, cool. But if we're scalping, intraday trading, whatever the case is, just because everybody's saying it's going down, I mean, I don't trust to sell that day, basically. But other factors that I do, like again, filling in imbalances in the market, like this is where the whole global recession stuff, right, started kicking in. And that's that 19,500 level I was telling you guys about. So from this huge drop, that's a big imbalance that, if price has already kind of shown us it has kind of halted its progress to the downside, right? We got our first move, started looking like we might come back down again. We have now made another new high here. So again, we can probably see some small retracements into this level, but overall, I think that we are just making one big recovery back into that initial really big drop that we had when all this craziness started. Maybe not necessarily to 19.5 exactly, but again, at least to where this big drop began right here at around 19K to 19,400, give or take. But man, I'll tell you what, like indices for me, like we looked at gold. I love indices for the fact that we get such clean price action. And this is exactly why I loved that 19,500 level. It was just so clean. Like you don't get many other assets that give you just these impeccable, very obvious key levels like NASDAQ, US 30, SPX, whatever, where not just that price touched here a bunch of times, but this is like a clean whole number, 19,500. Like banks love these very clean, easy to, quote whole numbers, right? So 19.5, something that will, again, if we get back to that level, we can see big pushes all the way to here. And if we break back above it, we've seen us potentially get all the way back up to almost basically 21K. Remember, we got elections coming up. There's going to be a lot of incentive to want to look good with saving the market, right? So I'm not so pessimistic overall on the market crashing, even if it's fake, like even if it's like forced price action. Just keep that in mind. The charts will always tell, guys. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking for NAS. I would like a nice sell first, to be honest, to get us into really nice buying ranges to take us all the way up here for like a multi-thousand pip move. And that's really ideally what I would be looking for NAS. Once we're here, then it's going to be very interesting if we get that skyrocket or if we get another big plummet. It's going to be one of the two. So, yeah, man, that's what I got for NAS, plain and simple. What you got for me, bro?
I won't share my screen because I'll be pretty much quick at that point. But it was cool
Okay.
because last week, I was liking sales, kind of where we were at last week Sunday. And I said, hey, it should drop down, but it's crazy, and that's funny that you touched that, right? Because we were sitting somewhere around like 19,700, and I was like, man, if this could drop for the entire week, like it'll take us a week to get down to that like 18,800. I think something like that. I said it was like a more of a specific number that I had. I was like, that would be amazing for the week. And it's like if we could take. So even for me, I didn't send that. I think for NAS, I only sent like one or two live trades for NAS because even scalping at that point, like you said, I wasn't loving the trade. I wouldn't put $1 million on it. So I was like, I'm not going to send it, but I'll go ahead and I'll throw my long, I'll throw my short on the chart, see what happens. And I'm only normally do 20 down, 30 down, right? 200, 300 pip risk. Bro, it would be like in 3 minutes, 800 down. I'm like, what's going on? And the next thing you know, I come back 10 minutes later and it's like 1500 up. I was like, yo, like this is just crazy. And the thing is, and I love that you touched that on that last part, right? NAS 100 is 100 stocks. And this is where smart money comes in. This is where the institutions come in, all that point. And I've been saying this too, Rich, right? Right now, I've had a lot of people reach out to me last week, over the weekend, like, hey, Brent, should I start buying now? Should I start buying now? Like, should I buy stocks now? And I was like, hey, I'm not a financial advisor, one. Two, but if you ask me on a personal level, I would not buy yet. It's never bad to dollar cost average, whatever, depending where you already are at, because I don't know where you're at. I'm not your whatever Series 6, 7, all that stuff. So I don't know your portfolio. But if you bought stupidly high, then sure, start dollar cost averaging. But if we're gonna drop, this isn't done, and this is the part where we take that big dive. Social media does what they do, the institutions do what they do to cause all this panic. And for those that have some sort of knowledge, but they're not involved truly in that community, they don't have that true proximity, they're thinking that now is the time to buy. And that's what the institutions expect you to do too. So they're expecting it to buy, and then they'll put retail traders into saying, hey, I bet a bunch of stock people are buying right now. Let me go ahead and buy right now at 18,600. Let me go ahead and buy right now. And what happens? It drops all the way to 17,200 on you. Like, again, it's one of those things to where you can't get caught up a lot of times with it, but you need to use that. Like you need to use when you start seeing these consistent posts of even when banks are posting and saying, hey, like the market's dropping. It's like, why would the bank be telling me this right now? Like, let me use this in my advantage. Let me use what they're actually doing in this advantage. So what I would like for NAS to do is to use the level where it's at now, like you were saying, Rich, come down a little bit, just give us a little bit of a low, give us a nice little low wick, and then slowly make your way up to where we start getting those big news, those CPI, PPI, those bigger news, especially the federal one tomorrow, till where we start taking bigger dives. Like ultimately, it would make sense. It would be really nice for us to be back up into that 18,800, that 19 range. But with all the news that we have next week, nothing is truly favorable for it, but that doesn't mean that we're just going to immediately sell. It could be, again, one of those situations to where the market's getting ready, the institutions are getting ready to pull a fast one on us. What do I mean by that? I know if you've been here for a while and you've been doing this for a little bit, you've seen that before, right? Where news comes out, the news is like, great, like this company, AT&T, Apple, this is it. They put a manufacturing warehouse in the United States, and that's going to help the dollar. So gold should come down, and next thing you know, freaking gold goes up, or NAS should go up now, and NAS goes down, and you're like, the news just did the opposite of what the chart did. I feel we're gonna run a lot into that situation, and that's where again the candles don't lie, the charts don't lie. That's where again market structure comes in, right? All that important stuff that we teach, because that is not going to lie to you. And like I've always said, what news is, in my opinion, I've always said this. It's nothing that I learned from anybody, but for me, news, how I've always seen it is they know that they want to be up here. And we're here right now. And it's going to take up 3 weeks to get there. Guess what? News, boom, boom. 3 days, we're there. We met. They already know where they want to be at. They know. They know. We just get little by little candles until it gets to that point. I mean, that's why I call Fridays correction Fridays. Fridays typically are very weird. Like a lot of times they won't respect you. All your 20 indicators are telling you selling it buys. It's because it's a correction Friday. The big institutions need to meet their quotas. They need to do what they have to do. And they already said, hey, Sunday market open, Friday, guys, we need to be here. And if Friday we're here, we're going to make sure it gets there no matter what. So that's where, again, market structure, right? Market structure, price action, all those really those fundamental basics that you get, that's where that kicks in and play. But I expect the NAS to be a good week just for the fact of what it did last week. We need a lot of catching up to do, and it did a lot of big moves. So it should set it up. And if it takes a little bit more of that pace, that's where we're going to start seeing those. And I like the fact when Rich sends a trade, and it's one of those trades, like he said, intraday, one day, whatever it takes 2, 3 hours to go from here all the way up to here, 1,500 pips, 3,000 pips. I love it because that means I'm going to be able to buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. Like that channel, those that follow me, that channel is going to be so solid for me to where I'm going to be able to take a gazillion trades inside that channel beautifully. And I'm happy for that. So it works out for both of us. And it does look like it's going to be a good week.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one thing to kind of wrap up here, something that you guys see as well, if you guys really follow NASDAQ specifically, a lot of executives were definitely like cashing out on their shares, right? We saw that with Nvidia, Amazon, Microsoft. The one that really obviously was very like news was Huang, however you say it, from Nvidia, right? So if you guys know, Nvidia had like a massive year, but really like the last couple of years, it's just basically become like the biggest thing, right? And these sell-offs, that's why I'm not so bought into the fact that we're in like global recession, or I should say American recession, just yet. And even if we are, man, like let me tell you, like we've been in quote unquote tough times and the market shows it's going up, right? So that's why I say, like, don't buy into all of the fear, right? Just get to understand the charts. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, if it does sell off, like, I know that not all of us maybe necessarily took sells here because we're still not maybe confident in executing trades ourselves or whatever. But this 19.5 level was discussed. Like, hey, if we start breaking below that, starting showing signs that we're breaking below, let's sell that. Meaning that you guys are getting, signals from educators, not just me, but Brent and other people, Jonathan Leal, I know he covers a lot of indices as well, telling you guys like, hey, like we can sell the stock market, right? We can sell these indices. And other people, they have their 401ks, retirement plans. I had family members literally that asked me like, yo, should I let go of my 401k? I'm like, dude, just chill. If you're not about to retire like in the next 30 days, like just hold on, like. So if you just look historically, guys, like we can have these flash crashes, we can have these, whatever these times, but especially like NASDAQ, like tech is on the way up. Like tech is tech, guys. Think about that. Don't forget what you're trading, right? Tech specifically. I mean, it's I don't really gotta elaborate, like we're talking Amazon, we're talking Nvidia now, we're talking Apple. They ain't going nowhere. So
Tech and energy. Yeah.
yeah. Like don't forget what you're trading is what I'm saying. And sometimes we just maybe don't even realize what we're trading, right? I think that was something I wanted to really kind of like elaborate on when it comes to like NASDAQ, making like a video or something to show you guys like what the heck are we actually trading? Because sometimes people just see like it's a symbol or like a 3-letter acronym and that's it, right? But it's like if you understand what it's comprised of, then you'll understand the fundamentals side and like why it should be going in a certain direction, right? Individual stocks are always going to be the hardest things, guys. I think that we like to trade indices because it's a composite of so many other strong companies, right? That we can get a good gauge overall. And then gold, I mean, come on, it's gold, guys. Like it's a global storage of wealth for since before cars were made, before computers were made. I'm talking about kings and queens, horses. Gold has been gold. So we're trading things that we can get a good grasp on if we just kind of understand what we're looking at. So yeah, man, I think that we're pretty set for the week as far as direction, what to expect, guys. You guys definitely, plug into Brent's live sessions if you like to scalp in the mornings with him. Brent, what's your session times again for everyone on here?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 Central in English. Tuesday, 10 Central in Spanish.
There you go. right? And then my sessions, guys, are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays as well. It's going to be in the PM, like at 8 p.m. Eastern. So those are always going to be recaps and projections, kind of similar to this, to give you guys an idea of like what to expect and how to learn from the price action of that day. So we got a mix here, right, of live trading and then also kind of like taking a step back. And I guess you could call it like reviewing footage, right? Like if we're a sports team. But I think when you combine those two elements, right, you get a really strong development as a trader because you're feeling the pressure, right, of trading in the moment. Even if you're following Brent, right, like you're still like, oh man, like we're scalping, like we're getting in trades right now, like feeling that emotion, that trade management, right, and then also pairing that with taking a step back, actually reviewing your past trades to see like what you could have done differently, how things played out, etc. I think if you had a good balance of those two things, guys, that's gonna really like push you forward like above 90 something percent of people, not just in Akashics, but like in the world. Right. A lot of people they skip one of the two. There's a lot of people that just look at charts all day and they never trade. And there's people that trade all day and never actually learn from their mistakes, if that makes sense. When you do both, I think it's a secret formula right there. So yeah, man, I'm excited to crush a brand new week. Obviously, guys, we got some really nice events coming up. We got Toronto, right, in a couple weeks. We got Dallas. We got Greece, Dubai, UK, Slovakia. Like, I mean, honestly, there's just events all across the world right now, which is a great sign for our brand, right? At the end of the day, yes, we get on these calls, we talk charts, we talk market outlooks, but you know, we're here for Akashics, right? And Akashics as a brand is kind of like on the up, right? And it's thanks to each and every single one of you guys that, you know, have trusted in the educators, in our CEOs, in the leadership put in place to give you guys the right information, arm you guys with the right skills, and really just help you go to the next level. But for a Koshek stock to, you know, maybe make it to the NASDAQ one day, you know, we got to keep growing, right? So I'm excited to, you know, leverage these events, guys. Let's continue to really push this brand to the next level. I know that the couple thousand people that we have right now is huge, but I already know we're getting to 10K, 100K customers, and it's really going to be the effort of all of us doing just a bit, right? So, man, super excited to crush this week. Brent, I don't know if you got any final thoughts before we head out of here.
Yeah, super quick. Catch me tomorrow on my Instagram live for Mindset Mondays. That's back consistent. So I'll be doing that. Make sure you tap in to those. I'm sure we'll do an overview or two this week because we have our promotion starting on the 14th. So make sure you guys tap in. I know you guys, most likely everybody here should already be in Akashic. So this is an amazing opportunity for you guys to get your 3 and free if you don't have it yet, to hit the rank. So we're going to have another amazing promotion to where sign up to Akashics, get a free 25K account. So amazing. Most likely it's the last of the year, guys. So really make sure you lock in. Starts on the, as far as I know, it should start on the 14th. I'm sure we'll hear something from corporate tomorrow, most likely. And then everybody else that's already here and wants to take an advantage, you'll have 50% off any other account. So really good. I'm going to make sure and secure myself maybe 100K, 200K account that point. But more than anything, this is a great opportunity. Kind of sometimes maybe to remove yourself, like remove yourself for yourself. You know what I mean? Kind of remove yourself on the map of, hey, I'm already here. I already have my account. I'm good. This is an opportunity for someone else to make sure we can make that impact in somebody else's lives to where they can come in, get their free account, do what we're doing here, and then you obviously will be financially rewarded with the amazing compensation plan we have. Because that's really what I've been saying for a while now. It's the one of the biggest cheat codes in trading is when you're trading and your bills are paid. When you have a residual check kicking in and you already know you're good, 5K, 10K, 25K, whatever that rank may represent, and you know that monthly check is kicking, you're good. Like you're not trading to make money anymore. Now you're trading because you're chasing the pips, not the dollars. Now the charts talk to you suddenly different. Like now you're speaking in chart language, just suddenly, magically. Like it is a huge cheat code. So make sure you take advantage of this deal that we're gonna have. It's amazing, amazing. And then lastly, I'll say right now is a really good opportunity to use everything that's happening in the market right now as your long-term goal, right? Your long-term mindset goal. So what I say by that is right now with everything going on in the market, really like in the perfect world, you're already set, you're funded, bills are paid, and you have right now liquid money to play with, right? So if it's not happening now, you are grateful that it is already happened in X amount of days. You guys know all the mindset play that we do, right? But little things to start Googling and having like kind of fun with in a sense and getting more knowledge in this is uh high yield dividend stocks. So a lot of the wealth, right? That wealth 1%, 5%ers, what they do in these situations is they get ready to purchase high dividend yield stocks like VOO. So literally just Google what is VOO? What is QQQ? What is what's the XPX? What is SPY? Like there's a lot of dividends to where what you do on those is you buy them and then they're just paying you every 3 months, right? It's a lot of what the wealth does. So it might be a situation of, hey, I'm not going to learn how to trade that because you really don't trade that. It's more of investments that you start doing of preparing yourself of, okay, once I get funded, I'm this. What do I start doing with my money, right? So it's one of those goals to say, hey, I want to make sure that by when this happens, I could go ahead and I could dump so much into this thing, that thing. Those are good. Bonds are good. That's another thing you could start just doing your basic research on. It's nothing, again, you have to take hours and nothing you're going to do right now. It's just more of that long term. It's stuff to get you if you want to say motivated, right? That do that one. And then another really good one, and that's it's again, everything kind of lays by example, right? Treasury. Treasury guys, huge for a reason. Warren Buffett owns like 70 something, whatever percent of the world's treasury. He owns more than the Federal Reserve. Like he owns more than the feds when it comes to treasuries. And that says something. That man is beyond wealthy. So if he's doing it, it's something that you start paying attention to. And it's just those long-term goals to kind of keep you evolved into this world and you start learning a little more by Laura. But focus on your goals. Let's make sure we do what we got to do. And now let's have a great week as always.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Well, I'm excited to get back into the mix with you guys and lock in this week. So let's definitely make it count. It's already August, y'all. The door's knocking. It'll be Christmas tomorrow. So let's make these next couple months count. Let's lock in. But appreciate you for being here as always. I will have this recording up pretty shortly. I should have it for everybody to rewatch it, share it with the teams, etc. But guys, much love. Let's crush it and let's run it up.